Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being the show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Lucifer as well as the latest episode of Supergirl. Like always, if I'm talking about something you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Lucifer, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Supergirl. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Lucifer. A great episode. Basically, this episode revolved around a murder in a kind of like a suburban neighborhood about this woman. Her real name was Sandra. She faked her death. Apparently, she worked with this Korean mob gang called the Korean Power and basically made ecstasy for him, almost kind of like a Walter White situation. She ended up dead inside of a wood chipper, which is like, that is super brutal, especially because it's super messed up because you actually see her legs sticking out of it too. It's like, ugh, that's rough. This all coincides with Lucifer trying to get to know Pierce more. Because he ends up finding out, talking to Pierce about all the different ways that Pierce has tried to kill himself. I mean, it's like, he's been on Earth for a very long time, so he's tried different things. Because Lucifer shows up with a chainsaw. He's like, yeah, that's not going to work. You think I didn't try that? I tried this, I tried that. I even thought it was kind of interesting when he brought up the fact is like, he's like, he even jumped in a volcano. It's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, he's like, that was a terrible 6 months. So it's like his wounds heal, but it probably is a situation of like, it probably just takes a very long time to heal. I even appreciate him kind of going a little nerdy about it because they're like, oh, what if you get split in half? He's like, well, one half will like heal, but the other one won't. He never really went too much into that, but that means that somewhere out there, you'll probably find halves of Kane just somewhere from when he was trying to kill himself and split himself in half. And even he was kind of like, oh, it's actually interesting because it's like, yeah. He's like, you kind of got the whole, I think he was like, oh yeah, you got the whole Wolverine thing going, and never mind. So I thought that was just kind of interesting too, explaining it like that. And like, is it not kind of just like going over it, like not really caring about it? I was like, but that's super interesting. Like, if you cut him in half, because I was wondering about it too. It's like, what if you decapitate him? Most likely a situation of like his head would just grow back. Not less it's like, oh, a head will grow underneath his body. I mean, it could go either way, but I'd assume it just regenerate with like the bigger half of his body. I don't know, maybe it's random, much like his body splitting in half, like it just chooses one side to regenerate from. It's like, like I said, what do you do with the other half? Do you just bury it somewhere? Like I said, people just bury up like, oh man, there's a half corpse here. Oh, it says it's Pierce, this DNA matches here, something like that. I'm curious to see if that's going to play a role in this episode or something, like all the different parts of his body that are just chopped up and off somewhere else just from the different attempts he tried to kill himself. Like, I'm curious about that, but nevertheless. This all deals, I love the fact is that in this episode you had Lucifer and Pierce going undercover. Because, like, Lucifer's trying to make every excuse to get Pierce involved in the case, because he's trying to spend time with Pierce to kind of understand him. I even appreciated it. Like, he kind of entered the Linda mode, because he turned, like, kind of almost shaped, Pierce's office into, like, a therapist room, and he even wearing glasses like Linda. I was like, which is kind of interesting. He didn't actually do that himself. Maybe that's something we'll see in the future, but it's like, he didn't actually just send Pierce to Linda. Which I don't even know if like Kane really even knows all that about Lucifer, that he goes to therapy and that Linda knows everything. Like, it makes you wonder like how much of like Lucifer's life this Kane really know about him. It's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. But it's just kind of nice. And him is like, oh yeah, the way that's a very passive aggressive way of handling it. It's like, because Lucifer has a tendency to nitpick and like pick and choose what he wants to take from Linda's advice and kind of interpret it as his own. It's just kind of interesting for him to just take these keywords that she's probably used against him and using them on Pierce, which he didn't appreciate. But having them pretend to be a couple undercover, I thought that was so good, especially because Pierce is just so over. He's just kind of annoyed and everything. But Lucifer's the one taking full advantage of it, pouring a lot of like alcohol in his cup, probably trying to get Kane drunk. Which begs the question: can he get drunk? I think Lucifer can kind of get drunk to a certain extent because like he did that last season after the whole like killing Uriel thing. He kind of drank a lot, but I don't know if that really. I mean, it seemed like it might have affected him, but that was just more him acting out of grief. So I don't know if that was necessarily him being drunk. The thing is, I guess because Kane, like his wounds heal, so even if he got super drunk, his liver would recover from it. Probably take some time, but I don't know. Like that's just kind of probably not his cup of tea anyway. I mean, he's probably for all his intents and purposes, he's probably drank himself into oblivion many times, just trying to forget. But them being such an odd couple and everything, and Lucifer pushing him like, oh, come on, tell them a little bit more about you. It's like, yeah, my father probably wouldn't approve and stuff. It's just like they made such an interesting couple. And I love later on that they had that fight in front of everybody at the party, the housewarming party. And it just like, out of context, it just seems like a couple fight. But obviously within the context, like we as the audience know what they're fighting about. It's like, oh, you made this promise to me. You're not good at keeping your word. And Lucifer got super offended because Lucifer's very particular about himself. It's like, I keep my word because that's his whole deal. Like when he makes deals with people. Two is the fact is that he never lies. That was kind of something that came up last season. Like he doesn't like being called a liar because he always tells the truth. Because lies aren't his thing, So it's just that really hurt him, because that hurt his pride, and then he's just like telling everyone just to move out of the way as he walks away, and Chloe had to bring him back in. It's just like, you can't change your partner, which she was kind of talking from personal experience, but Lucifer didn't really read between the lines, but she's just kind of like, hey, Pierce cares about this case, he needs you. He's like, well, does he really? It's like, well, yeah, he does. Like, to kind of finish his case, and then Lucifer kind of went back, and it was just over like, oh, like, because Lucifer was actually trying, but he's like, oh, you're not trying, but then Lucifer came back and was like, oh, you actually did that. You moved everything around on the table. It was like, oh yeah, I didn't want, and it's just this cute moment is like, oh, I guess I could try a little harder. It's like I said, once again, out of context, it's like, oh, they're making up. This is so sweet. And then they're just like, everyone's kind of cheering and everything. I just love that they have an audience for it. And Lucifer kind of gets caught up in the moment. It's like, all right, and kisses him. So you must see this part of Chloe just being like, yeah, okay, you're, well, glad you're kind of playing up this whole couple act. I think it kind of made Chloe a little jealous, actually, because it's just kind of like, it's weird because it's like, for one, it's your partner and your boss pretending to be a couple, which I think maybe is also on some level because Chloe kind of has a thing for Pierce too, which also gets a little weird too when you consider the fact that she kind of have a thing for Lucifer too, and so it's just kind of like she's looking at a fake picture of them together and she puts it down, so it's just a little conflicted emotions all over the place. But I do appreciate that what we end up finding out at the end of the day is that it was Brian's wife, because she thought like, oh, I killed Sandra because, oh, I thought, he thought she was having an affair with her husband because it's like, oh, you're losing weight and everything. And then it's like, no, he didn't wasn't having an affair with her. She was his drug dealer. And it's like, oh, I said, yeah, I was losing weight because I didn't want to lose you. In a weird twisted way, it was almost a little romantic because it's like, oh, I killed Sandra by accident, but it was just, I got so pissed because I thought she was having an affair with you. But it's most likely because Sandra didn't want to admit, like, oh yeah, I'm dealing drugs. It's probably like, she probably didn't know how Brian's wife would have reacted to that. Plus it's like, a little discretion with the way you handle your business. So it's kind of like, But also, the fact is, Brian's like, well, I lost this weight because I want to be with you. And it's like, oh, so sweet. It's like, they had that little moment. So I'd like to think that even with jail time, like, that they're still they could still be together. It's like, well, we'll be happy when, after you get out and everything. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. Because the moment he defended his wife, I was like, oh, why is he acting like this? Right, he doesn't want her to sign a guest book, because immediately at the police station, he recognized her handwriting. So I thought that was like something I caught on immediately too. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. Interesting resolution to the case. It wasn't like, I also appreciate like when Lucifer was doing the whole thing, trying to get Pierce involved, he went to the Korean power, and then Chloe was like, do not just, all you're going to do is walk in there and be like, hello, what was it? Drug dealers. And he was like, it was almost like Lucifer looked at her like, I'm almost offended. Like, I wouldn't do that. He literally did it. To be fair though, he didn't do it in the language. She thought he was just going to do it in his English, but it's like, no, he did it in Korean. So there's that. He kind of proved her wrong to a certain extent, but also kind of a badass moment, him going down the hallway, taking everyone down. Because you never really get to see Lucifer actually fight people. Like, I mean, it's not much of a fair fight, but, which also kind of shows that Lucifer's kind of got some moves on his hand. Like I said, it's not something he's ever, because he never really has to fight, because it's like, well, it makes you wonder, can he actually pretty much defend himself even when he's not immortal, or is that just something he can only handle himself when he's, maybe it's a situation of like, well, he's less concerned about dying when he's more immortal, when Chloe's not around, because he's like, well, I don't have to worry about it, so I can kick my moves. And I don't know, like, you never really get to see him fight like that. Usually it's like, oh, I'm tossing dudes aside, but he's like dodging blades, and just like that one poor dude got stabbed by that lady multiple times because Lucifer was using him as a shield. And the leader of it's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm here to help you. And basically had to do, I thought it was so interesting to do was calm and collect. He's like, oh yeah, I'm the leader of the Korean power. I'm like, oh yeah, we've done this, and that. And even Chloe's just kind of like, okay, this is weird. You're admitting to all these different crimes. And I was like, the way he's acting so calm and collected, it's not like Lucifer freaked him out. So it's like, what happens? And it's later on, like Lucifer's like, oh yeah, I promised him all of Sandra's research. So they basically, if he wants to, he can start making the ecstasy that she's kind of best known for. And I was like, that's what it is. Which on some level, you kind of get where Lucifer's coming from. It's like, come on, you don't want people's good times and orgies ruined by some bad E. It's like, well, at the same time, it's like, with this, I guess one side of it could be like, well, because it's, a better formula of E, that means the fact of the matter is that, you don't have to worry about, things being wrong. It's actually a good batch. And so people are less likely to get hurt. So I guess that's one silver lining. Like, it seemed like that might have been a spin that Lucifer was trying to put on it. I also appreciate when they found those Adderall pills. It's like, he's like, oh yeah, it's really good. And then Pierce is like, did your partner just consume them or something? And it just, Lucifer's just having a ball. But I do appreciate that this episode was basically being like, hey, we're deepening the friend, like, because they even admit it later on in episodes, like, they're kind of friends at this point in time, Pierce and Lucifer. Bonding over this fact is because it's like, after, when it was all said and done, Lucifer finally realized, it's like, oh yeah, like, Pierce is alone. That's his kryptonite, his weakness. And it's just like, you're alone. And that's why you want to die, because there's no one else in this world that can experience what you can experience. But it's like, oh, we have friendship. We kind of understand each other. Which even Pierce was like, no, you've been on this earth for how long? You've been on this earth for 5 years. To be fair, Lucifer can kind of somewhat understand. I mean, I guess ruling in hell is a little bit different because that's your own terrain. And even then, you're not alone. Like, Kane's never had anyone, because everyone he's ever been close to is slowly withered away or, died, He's always kind of going on his own. What's kind of interesting, that moment between him and Chloe, he was like, yeah, the fact is we had that moment in the van, but it's like, yeah, everyone dies, and he's just kind of like not willing to get attached to people, which even Chloe is like, yeah, I actually like that we did have that moment. It was a very nice moment. So any potential of them being a thing seemed like it died in that moment, but it did seem like, oh, there really was something there, because even Chloe was like, oh yeah, I'm the reason he says, and Lucifer's like, nah, get over yourself, detective. It was me, I'm the one. And she's like, well, whatever world you want to live in. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So even she was kind of admitting like there was something there, and even Pierce kind of admitted there was something there, but he's not willing to be in a relationship with someone again, just because it's like, you're just going to ultimately die, and I'm just going to continue, and I don't want that. Probably done it so many times that it's too depressing to even start, even go down that route, so. And even brought up the situation of like, oh yeah, your brother's death is still bothering, it's still heavy on you. And it's like, he's basically like, you have no idea how right you are, so. But getting back to it, it's like I said, this bond they are forming, kind of giving a middle finger to God with this whole situation. Because even, Kane is kind of like, you're lonely too, because like the only person who can understand his blight, his feelings of distaste for his father, is Kane, because no one else can understand that. Like, even Amenadel has kind of backed away from his feelings towards their dad, of being more like, oh yeah, dad's planned for me and stuff like that. So the only person Lucifer has to like it's like they've kind of been screwed over by God in some shape or form, So it's like, Lucifer being the banished son, and Kane being in his situation, forced to walk the world forever, plus being the one who killed his brother and everything. That's a long ass time to live with what you did, and just obviously there's no forgetting that. Plus, like I said, trying to move on with your life, but it can't be an easy thing, being an immortal and everything. So there is some kinship there, so I do appreciate that. And even he's like, oh, we'll try things we've never tried before. And you have Pierce being like, okay, fine, you can get the chainsaw. He's like, I thought you'd never ask. It's like, you're so excited about that. Also, I love that he went to Maze about it, and Maze was like, yeah, I used this weapon, and then I stab him. I used this weapon, and I stab him in the heart. And Lucifer's like, do you literally, is everything kind of a precursor to you stabbing him in the chest with your knife? And she's like, well, yeah, how other way would I kill him? It's like, well, he tried the demon blades on, the weapons, Maze's blades, which are made from demons still, on Kane, which is kind of interesting, because Lucifer was like, yeah, even these can kill me. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I knew they'd hurt you. I didn't think they'd actually be able to kill you. It does make you wonder, would Uriel's blade actually be able to? I mean, to be fair, it's off in whatever dimension their mom is, so there's no getting that back. So I'm curious, like, not Uriel's blade, or the blade that Uriel had, but it was Azrael's blade. But like, would Azrael's blade do it? Especially because that can kill anything celestial. So I don't know. The fact is that Demon Steel can't do it. Kind of makes you think maybe it wouldn't either. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's not an option anyway, so it's not even worth thinking about. So. But another aspect of this episode I really liked was the whole Charlotte and Dan thing. I'm so glad they were kind of going on a date this episode. I was like, oh, did we just not get to see that? Because it hadn't cut back to that in a while. I was like, oh, they're on a date this episode. But I love like the whole Mazikeen like being around her. Like the moment Mazikeen started being attracted to her and everything, I was like, what is that about? It's like, oh, is it because she's trying to be good or something? I was like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, right, the soul thing. And it's like, because I immediately nailed it. It's like, yeah, because she went to hell. Because she's the only person within the confines of this series that has been to hell and back. And I was like, oh yeah, it has to make Mazikeen nostalgic. I was like, because it's like a smell. And I was like, well, yeah, you'd be the only one to be able to sniff that. Makes you wonder, can Lucifer smell that on her? But it's like, because for a brief moment because it's even interesting too, because Charlotte's like, well, I almost died. I guess the thing is, like, when their mom entered her body, like, Charlotte was on the verge of dying. She wasn't quite dead yet, so she kind of got pushed out and went to hell. But the moment the goddess left her body healed from the wound immediately. And in her, like, no moment the goddess left, her soul kind of got dragged back out of hell and brought back to her body. So it's kind of my understanding of it. But Mazikeen was like super all over her, even interrupting their date and everything. And she's being like, because even like you have Charlotte being like, was this a, and Dan's like, what? No. I mean, he's like, unless you're into it or something like that. And Maze is like, I'm into her. And she's like, so sure, whatever. And then Dan's like, what? Almost like Dan is losing his shit. Like, oh my God, this is almost a chance. This is a possibility. I also appreciate her being like, she's like, oh, you two know each other. And Maze is like, oh yeah, we killed a guy together. He's like, that's kidding. I was like, God, she dropped that. I'm curious to see if that ends up coming up again. You know, the guy that killed the jail warden that ended up killing Chloe's dad. Is like, I'm curious, is that going to come back to them in any shape or form? The fact that they threw that in there, I mean, yes, that's how they know each other, but I'm curious, like, will anything come about that or not? Like, I kind of get the feeling there won't be, but I don't know. The fact that they threw it in there also makes you think maybe something else will come back from that, which is kind of interesting. Like, diving into everything later on, like, Charlotte's kind of like, I don't feel normal. And Dan's kind of like, well, the fact is nothing about our relationship is normal. Because she's like, I have a lot to fix about myself, and you're a great normal guy, so I don't want to kind of drag you all up in my mess. But it's like, hey, nothing about us is normal. So if I have to, I'll wait as long as I need to with this whole situation. So I thought that was just kind of interesting, and it's kind of sweet. They're like, yeah, because everything around their circumstances, it's not like Dan's 100% normal either, because he's kind of on that same level. I mean, they're literally in the same situation, both of them trying to make up for the past, because let's not forget all the shady stuff Dan was up to back in season 1. So he's trying to make up for that, just like Charlotte trying to make up for a lot of her life. Not all of her life, at least, you know, bits of her life with the way she helps out criminals and stuff like that, trying to make up for that. It was kind of interesting, too, that Maze was like, oh, that's why I'm having a thing. Yeah, the fact is you're trying to be normal. Yeah, I'm just gonna, like, lost all interest. So I thought that's, but, you know, Dan's still over there. So, you know, he's all about that. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So, because but what's also interesting about that is Maze was kind of like, yeah, just kind of like I said, it made her nostalgic, but she was kind of like, I'm over it, because she actually built a life for herself here. That, because remember, back in season 1, all she wanted to do was go back home. She has not mentioned that once, maybe because of the possibility of like, well, I don't want to, well, there was no way home. I mean, to be fair, Lucifer has his wings again, so they could go back home if they want to, which I'm curious, is that going to play a part in the storyline or not? Because his wings can allow you to traverse the different worlds, I guess. Which is that how Maze got here? Was Lucifer like wings? He went to hell, pulled her up with him, because that's how Amenadiel got around. But I mean, he doesn't really have his wings right now. I mean, they molted and kind of fell apart and everything. So I'm just curious about that. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. But it's like, it just shows you just how important her life here has become. That she hasn't brought it up subsequently, knowing about Lucifer having his wings in there, because she doesn't care anymore, because she likes her life here much like Lucifer does. So, which kind of coincides with the whole aspect of like Cain's like, oh, give it enough time, like, you know, all these people Lucifer's gotten attached to, all these people that are important to him, you know, everyone in his life, Linda, Ella, even Dan and Chloe, you know, Charlotte now too. It's like, they are all important parts of his life that eventually they will die, because he is immortal, because he is Satan himself, they're all going to like eventually die, you know? So it's actually super sad. And I think it's something that I don't think Lucifer's ever really given much thought of, because Lucifer's kind of a live in the moment type of person. But I think Cain is going to give it this whole aspect of his life here a very interesting perspective. So it might be a situation that what will Lucifer do? Like when it's all said and done, when all these people are going, when even Chloe's going, what will he do? Will he go back to hell? Will he stay on Earth? Will he even have a reason to stay anymore? Because she's always been his main reason for staying here. So, and like I said, it's fascinating to actually think about. So, overall, a great episode. I'm very interested to see things continue forth with all of this, especially like the Cain and Lucifer like friendship that's budding, and how they're going to work together to figure out how to kill Cain's situation. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see where all this takes us in the next episode. And now moving on to this week's episode of Supergirl, another great episode. I love this being a Morgan Edge and Lena episode. I love diving more into Lena's character and just that struggle with being a Luthor. Obviously, like there's an attempt made on Edge's life, and then Lena gets blamed for it, then Lena gets poisoned. Just kind of going back and forth, because you can also tell from the very beginning, it's like, oh yeah, like Lena's never done anything against him, and you saw her kind of feeling bad about it because she knew that she pointed that gun at him that one time, like she wanted to kill him. But what I was not expecting was it turning out to be her mom. I was wondering if her mom was going to pop up at all this season. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of interesting too, because she pops up by herself. She's got her group behind her, but it's like, you see like, Cyborg, Superman, or anything. So like not her entire group is there, so they're all doing whatever. So I'm sure that's gonna be something that pops up later, but for right now it's just the fact is that she was the one behind it. I thought it was just gonna be some random person Lena took the fall for, and it's just like, oh, it's all gonna come back. Like, I thought it was going to be something like that, because I knew Lena, I was like, there was always a possibility. It's like, well, Lena could have hired someone to do it, but I was like, no, I don't think so. The fact is that he is the one that poisoned her, kind of took me by surprise, because partially there was a part of my brain that's like, maybe Lillian did it, because it's like, would Lillian be too far above that? Let's not forget, she framed Lena for, quote-unquote, breaking her out of prison last season, so kind of like making everyone, think she was responsible for that. So it's kind of like, it's not, but going as far as poisoning your own child, it's like, I don't know. The sad thing is I wouldn't put it past her, because Luthors are a little bit crazy. They're very eccentric, and they're just willing to kind of do whatever it takes. And to me, it's like, well, that could have been like in her mind, it could be a motivation to get her. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, well, Lillian wouldn't put Lena's life in danger like that per se. So I don't know. It's kind of give and take. But the fact is, Lillian is trying to get her to tap into that Luthor side. You're so smart. Your brother is very hot-headed, but you're a lot more intellectual. You're a lot more meticulous than, Lex is. Lex kind of that's kind of like his ultimate undoing, is just the fact is that he kind of always kind of let things kind of get a little out of control. And in Lena's case, I guess it's like, you take time to think things out, so I guess it's because in her mind, it's probably like why she always looked after Lex more than she did Lena was because, like, well, I knew how smart and great you were. Lex is the one that needed all the attention. He needed the coddling, probably in her mind, it's like he needed me to be there, because it past, kind of makes it kind of seem like that's the case too. Like last season, kind of like more like, oh, Lex needed me to be there to kind of help him reach his full potential. You could do it all on your own if you just kind of let go of these juvenile ideas of like doing what's right, not willing to kind of get your hands dirty. It's like, well, Lena's like, if I wanted him dead, I'd kill him myself. But she's like, I know you would. Even bringing up something from her back in 5th grade, like, oh, saw how vindictive you were, how you took down this girl basically to short her life. I was like, she's like, I was in 5th grade. You can't really compare that to like murdering a dude, so. Like I said, which is kind of an interesting thing. I do like that aspect of it, though, because Lena is that. Like, since last season, all she's ever done is try to be the better person, because even Morgan's going after saying, like, oh, you're not really a person with power. Oh, you're just trying to cozy up to all these liberal people, hoping that maybe some of who they are will kind of rub off on her, because she has a Luthor name, basically alluding to the fact that people will no longer always see her as that. She doesn't really have any real power. She's just almost like playing a part, essentially, that trying to be this good Lena, and it's like, oh, in the end, I don't have to kill you, you're already dead. I was like, that's a super messed up line to say to her. It's like, you just go, ooh, Morgan Edge, you're such a douchebag. It's like, I love you, Adrian Pastar, but your character in this is, ooh, he's such a douchebag. Which I guess is the point, is like, you cannot but hate Morgan Edge. He's such a dick. I even thought it was kind of interesting that Jimmy kind of went all boyfriend mode, that he took advantage of being a vigilante and everything. It's like, yo, came after him as guardian. Is like, go after Lena again, and I promise you, you won't walk away from him. I'm like, oh, that's so good. You're so, that's like, Lena doesn't even know that you're going above and beyond like that, but dressing, I mean, because he hasn't turned into Guardian much this season. I guess like the job's kind of kept him preoccupied. There hasn't been much need for him to be. Has he been Guardian at all this season? I mean, arguably, I guess you could say the crossover event was back in like on Earth X, but that was about it. I don't think he's turned into. Maybe there is. I feel like there was a moment he was Guardian this season, but I don't know. But getting back to it, it's just Lillian's a very interesting lady. I even thought it was kind of interesting too how she like got into the Lexo suit the moment like the drone formed into. I was like, oh my god! And even Wynn started like geeking out. He's like, oh my god, that's the Lexo suit, and that's so awesome. And then Alex looks, like, I mean, it's gonna be awesome when Kara destroys it. I was like, that's sick. And you know, because I'm not that familiar with the Lexo suit, the only reason why I know about it in general is because of Injustice 1. That was kind of how Lex fought on par with a lot of the superheroes. It might have popped up in other things too, like animated series or something. I don't remember. Like Injustice, like the most vivid thing I can remember from. Obviously, this being a more modified version, it looked really good. You even saw the insides of it. It's like, oh, this is borderlining Iron Man right now. Even had like the kryptonite blade and everything. So sadly, the suit was destroyed. I mean, I guess it's a good thing because she can't be using it in the future. But that was kind of an interest. I wasn't expecting that. She just like, oh yeah, it start forming the suit. I was like, oh my god! I start losing my mind, dude. That's actually pretty cool. Together, Mon-El and Kara took it down. So, but I also love the fact is that Lena kind of using her smarts took the advantage. Just like, okay, confess, or my mom's drone is going to kill you. So she got the confession. Wasn't expecting Morgan Edge to pick up like ice pick and be like, give me the recording. It's like, wow, wasn't expecting you to actually do that, because it almost seems like beneath you, because he has to try to act like he's so high and mighty, he's so above getting his hands dirty himself. But the fact of the matter is he would go and just get an ice pick like that. It was like, oh, I guess that just shows you how desperate you are. But what really threw me for a loop is the fact is them both being arrested like that. Wasn't expecting Lillian kind of get taken down like that. Like I said, there's a whole aspect of like, well, she's only a small part of her organization. What are they called again? I don't remember. I'm blanking on her name. Oh, it's something with a C. I don't remember. It's going to bother me so much. Nevertheless, like I said, her whole group has got to all be doing something else. Like I said, that's going to come up later on. Even Lillian's like, oh, you'll see me when you visit me in jail, or, you know, if I'm still there, which I won't be surprised if you ended up getting out of jail. But like I said, I wasn't expecting Morgan to get arrested, which I guess he should kind of consider them lucky, because if it wasn't jail, I mean, well, jail is not like it's going to keep you safe from Rain or any of the world killers for that matter when they come, but more so than Rain, because she's kind of been like, oh, I'm going to take out bad guys, so she just hasn't gotten to you yet. Well, she's attempted, yes, but she hasn't come back for round 2, so you think he'd be like a little more on his best behavior with that whole situation, but I guess it's just like he hates Lena so much. It's like, I gotta get rid of her now, especially when he thought that she was actually behind it, which is like, I'm surprised, I guess, because there was no point like, oh wow, Lillian, why would she take time to come after me? It's like, well, you came after her daughter, so, and that kind of wiped that smug look off in his face, which even I was kind of like, even I kind of agree with Lena. It's like, okay, what's the real reason you came back? It's like, once again, whatever her group is up to, it's got to be the real reason why she came back, even though being so wanted. It's like, are you really going to come back just for your daughter? It's like, I don't think so. There's got to be more to it than that, but maybe that's something we'll kind of dive into later on. I am really curious though, is this going to be like leading to the moment where Kara finally tells Lena the truth? I mean, because Lena was very open with her in this episode, told her about the whole gun incident with him, as well as the fact is that her mom was involved with this, which I think that already shows you just how different Lena is from the rest of her family. But she is going like, yeah, thanks, Mom, because you made me realize like I can separate the two. Like I can use my Luthor wit without being evil. I can use my smarts to do something good with it. Like I am going to do the work that I said I was going to do. So, you know, because for her, it's like buying Catco and everything was more so a favor to Kara and everything. Like, you know, because it's like, oh yeah, like she wanted probably try something new. Plus, this gives her a lot more time to spend with Kara and everything. But it's a situation of, you know, because I mean, more so than anything, it was, you know, to keep it all from Morgan Edge's hands more than anything else. But also mainly because, I get to spend out time with my friends. And also, I think it also kind of made her feel good because it's like, oh, we can get the truth out there to people. So I think that's another aspect, of her, going through the more philanthropist route and, trying to clear up the Luthor name is what she's always tried to do, and I think she will always continue to do. Like I said, Lex is kind of solely the name, along with Lillian. I mean, we really don't know that much about their dad, like what he really did, I mean, I only know about their father because of Smallville, and his story took turns, like, it's, overall, I think he was a good person, especially in later parts of this series, but nevertheless, But all that just made me wonder, like, will Kara get any closer to telling Lena this season? She was even kind of going borderline and kind of exposing herself because to get Lena away back to the DEO to get cured for the cyanide, like, she flew there just as Kara. So it's like, and even Lena was like, oh yeah, I had this dream that we were flying. She's like, what, like Supergirl? What? Maybe I wish. Really quickly too, there was a bit of information I thought was kind of interesting from Mon-El earlier in the episode. He's like, oh yeah, like Zod, yeah, we did this work together to, fight Zod. It's like, whoa, Zod's still alive? I thought, Superman killed him. It's like, oh, so he's back alive again? It's like, all right, that's future stuff, which immediately my brain goes, so is that you referencing, like, winking to the DCEU, Man of Steel, since, like, Superman killed Zod? Spoilers if you hadn't seen Man of Steel, even that movie's like, 2013 that movie came out? But nevertheless, it makes you want, which is kind of interesting too, considering the fact is, well, Zod technically came back into DCEU as Doomsday, so are you saying that he came back even further, like, after that as well? Or, it could, because this isn't exactly saying that, like, the DCEU took place here on Earth 38. It could be a situation like, I mean, they've never actually specified, but with the movies and a separation from the TV shows, it's like, I guess arguably the DCEU takes place on Earth 1, but easily it could be like, oh, that takes place on Earth 15 or whatever, I mean, I don't know if that's something they're really going to dive into until they probably start diving into the Flash stuff more. Then they'll probably start opening up to, oh yeah, there's other worlds. There's other worlds very similar to ours, and then it'll probably get a little less. It's probably just referencing like, oh, Earth 38, kind of similar to Man of Steel. Might not be exactly the world that the DCEU took place in, but it's similar in certain regards, because a lot of worlds have similar things, but it's just kind of an interesting line of dialogue, I thought. So I'm sure that it was meant to be like a wink and a nudge towards Man of Steel, but I think it could also be seen as like yeah, this world is similar to that. It may be that exact world, or maybe it's just hey, it might be similar, so I don't know, just something to kind of think about. And another part of this episode dealt with the whole Sam situation, Alex helping her. What I was waiting for was like the moment like Alex started taking her blood, and it's like, okay, that needle's not going to work. And then it sticks into her arm. I'm like, what the hell is up with Sam's physiology? Because it changes all the time. Because even they were bringing it up early in the episode. It's like, yeah, they're kind of like Kryptonians, but they don't have the same signatures as Kryptonians. The whole aspect of last episode of like even near being away from the sun, she still had all her powers. Kryptonite, something she can shrug off, because they aren't Kryptonians. They're kind of, oh, maybe they're modified. And it's like, and then Mon-El's like, well, yeah, we've come across like modified situations like this before. So, but the fact of the matter is Sam did that. Like, she was able to get her blood drawn, was like, because I was thinking, oh, this is going to be the moment, and it turned out not to be. Because it seems like when she's Sam, her powers aren't there. So I don't know whether it's a situation where it's like a defense mechanism where it's like, oh, Rain tries to use Sam as a disguise. It's kind of like how the Superman situation, like, oh, the moment I put my glasses on, I'm clumsy and, oh, I'm totally not Superman. Maybe it's a similar thing where Rain does that, uses Sam as an alter ego to be like, hey, I'm normal. But it's like, how would you, I guess maybe Rain could be more compared to like a virus, and then once the virus is activated, then I don't know. She is a modified, so maybe there's certain aspects and cells in her body that she can supercharge them, but at the same time, like, make them normal too. Especially because none of the test result picked up anything, so it's something in her blood system she can turn on and shut off whenever she wants to. Because it kind of goes back to before, because I was like, why is it that sometimes she can summon superhuman strength and other times she couldn't? Which is like with Kara and like Clark, it's like, it's a 24-hour thing. It's like the moment your powers come through, it's like, yeah, there's no turning that off unless you had kryptonite or something. But it's like, other than that, it's like, your powers are active 24/7. You just have to pull them back. But Sam's, they come and go. So it probably is more of a situation of like, if Rain is in control, she's able to change the body's physiology to be what she needs it to be a world killer. But when she's Sam, she reverts it back to a human, you know? So I just thought that was such a fascinating thing. Because even Sam's like worried. She's like, I'm losing my mind. Like, what if something happens to me? And if it does happen to me, what's going to happen to Ruby? But then she has Alex, Kara, and Lena all there for her, like her, you know, and it's so nice that she has that support crew. Sadly, you know, you have Kara like worries so much about these world killers, and I've been realizing one of them is right there in front of her, and it's just kind of like, I'm waiting for that moment to come down to being like, because it's such an interesting perspective, because like obviously we've seen in other TV shows, like, you know, like, oh man, this is the villain and they haven't been unmasked yet. Like, you find out when the main characters find out. Like, oh, like, take Flash, for example, when he found out who, you know, Savitar was, or Zoom. I mean, we kind of found out ahead of time who Reverse Flash was. I mean, who, quote unquote, who he was, because, you know, there's more to that. But when we think it's Wells and everything. But it's kind of a similar thing, but except it's like, nah, you know it's Sam, but the characters don't know. So it is more akin to, like, Reverse Flash situation. So I guess actually it kind of fits this season too on all the shows, because it's like Oliver knows all of his enemies that he's going up against. Sort of, you know, there's deeper situations with the whole Caden situation, but Barry knows who his main antagonist is. He knows who the Thinker is. He's put a name to the face and everything, which is it's a little different because like Kara can't put a name to the face, because she hasn't seen Rain's real face. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting when you think about it. Just the dynamic there. And it's like you're secretly helping your enemy. But to be fair, that's what she kind of made apparent last episode, that she wants to try and reach her. And especially if she finds out that, oh, Sam is Rain, it's like she's going to try even more, especially for Ruby's sake and everything, you know? Especially because like, oh, you're my friend, you're Lena's friend, you're Alex's friend, which I think is kind of a neat thing, like bringing in that Alex dynamic too. I mean, especially because it's like, I guess really because they bonded a lot over the whole Ruby situation. Like I brought up like last episode, I think it's a situation of like, well, Ruby kind of reminds Alex of the whole like, oh yeah, I want kids someday. So probably when she looks at Ruby, she's like, oh my god, like I want kids, you know? So it probably like like I said, it feeds into that motherhood aspect of her, just kind of very deep down. So I thought that was kind of neat. So also bringing up the fact is things are still awkward between Mono and Kara. It's not something you can easily get over. I also appreciate the fact is Lena was like, oh, Monel. And he's like, oh, Miss Luther. And we're like, right, this is your first time learning that he's back. And she even tries to break it down in Kara's like, Monel's back. She's like, yeah, I know. It's a long story. And I was like, yeah, you do have to kind of explain that, right? It's kind of interesting because Lena's like, you know, because Lena always felt guilty about that situation. She's kind of, you know, made that apparently clear even at the beginning of the season. And you could tell it still bothers her. And it's like, especially if she finds out that, oh yeah, Monel's actually got a wife. It makes you wonder, how much would Kara tell Lena? Would she tell her, yeah, he's back from the future actually? Wait, what? I want to get that conversation, like how much she'd actually tell her. It's like, yeah, he's actually married now. Wait, what? Because she knows Monel's an alien and everything, so that doesn't apply and everything. So it's like she probably could go full on truth about everything. So, but then, you know, Lena would probably feel worse. It's like, oh my god, like he had to go to the future and he got married and it's my fault. You know, she might feel even guiltier about it. I don't know. But they are making strides. I was like, hey, we're working together and everything. We're kicking butt. So that's cool. Still kind of want them to be together, but that's just me. We ultimately have to see where the story decides to take them. I think it's going to be a situation of they don't get back together, that he is going to go back to the future because that is where he's needed, you know? So even if they did get back together, it would be a situation of he can't stay here. He has to go back because that's where he's needed. That's where he belongs, because everyone's got their destiny. Kara's destiny is here in this time, and his is in the future for his battle. So I doubt it is a situation, but it's probably going to be a situation of like being able to, Kara by the end of the season can finally move on, find new love, or at least, you know, not, you know, finally fully, you know, picking herself up. Because she has an amazing support group around her to help her with all that stuff. Also, what kind of threw me for a loop is that at the end of the episode, they're like, oh yeah, these are potential people who could be one of the Earth killers. And it's like Julia's picture pops up. It's like, Kara's like, it's her. It's like, how do you know? Because Kara had a dream. And I didn't even think about that at the time. I was like, I thought because that was just kind of for show or whatever. And I just didn't really think about it, even though they show Kara waking up. I was like, she saw Julia's face. Like, it's like, why is that though? There's something like click. It's like, how does she know that it's Julia? This might be the first steps to learning, like, oh yeah, like these world killers aren't world killers 24/7, that they're just average people too. That might be something we kind of dive into in the next episode with this whole aspect. But it's just like, why does she have that premonition? Like, well, what triggered that? Like, is there some deeper connection between them? I mean, I don't know, like the dream she's had about her mom and Monel, like at the beginning of the season, you think that's just her subconscious, sure, but the dream, what she dreamed, and be able to see Julia's face, that face of someone she's never met before, is like, why is that, you know? So I'm curious to see what that's all about. There's got to be a deeper reasoning for that. So I hope in retrospect it doesn't turn into a situation of like, nope, she's a pretty normal lady, like the whole, like, going back to it, the whole Thinker and Flash situation where it's like, oh, Barry was so sure about this, but everyone's like, I don't know about this, Barry, you know? So I hope it doesn't turn into that situation. I mean, to be fair, she has a whole, like, government secret organization to back her up to be like, oh, let's watch her from afar, people to watch her without it, you know, Supergirl having to get involved. So I think it's slightly better. So I don't know. We'll see about the whole situation. Like I said, overall, another great episode. I'm very interested to see what goes on in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.